and the armies gathered for the battle of Armageddon to the place in the Hebrew tongue called Megiddo.
For 2,000 years we have waited. For 2,000 years we have known. For 2,000 years the world has feared that one day would be the last day. Now, in 2001, that day may be tomorrow.
You will be punished!
Megiddo.
You don't have a chance in hell of getting what you want.
Oh, I'll always have a chance in hell, David.
Megiddo.
Available now in retail stores everywhere.
That was the trailer to the new apocalyptic film, Megiddo. Just a few visual effects, I'd say. Hi, I'm Stephen Blinn, and I am the co-writer and associate producer of Megiddo. And I'm here at the editing suite at Generation Entertainment, where we put the film together. And I'm here to give you a bit of an inside look at the making of one of the more important, impressive, and certainly expensive elements of the film, and that is the visual effects. And you know, Matthew Crouch, the producer, and I first started kicking around ideas for Megiddo back when we were still working on the Omega Code, our similarly apocalyptically themed film a couple years ago. And we always felt kind of hamstrung by the budget that we had to work with, that we couldn't show some of the elements of the Great Tribulation and the Book of Revelation that we were really hoping to because of budget and other considerations. And so we ended up having to use a lot of stock footage and play things in monitors, and didn't really feel that we were able to let the audience feel like they were a part of it. But once the film went on to become the #1 limited release of 1999, everyone kind of woke up to the fact that there's an audience out there that's hungry for this kind of storytelling. That's when Paul Crouch, our executive producer, said, hey, I want to take this audience right into the heart of the apocalypse, right into the heart of the Great Tribulation, right into the heart of the final battle of Armageddon, just like we had been wanting to. And so we all signed back up to do another one. And this time it's kind of a reimagining. It's not really a sequel to the Omega Code, and it's got a little bit of a prequel, and it's kind of concurrent, and it's really a standalone film on its own right, but we were able to go at it with a much bigger budget. We had a $20 million budget. $7 million of it got to be spent on visual effects, and that was the budget alone for what the entire cost of the Omega Code was. Rich Cook was our visual effects producer, and he instantly brought on a friend and longtime collaborator named Rob Brado to be our visual effects supervisor. And Rob has worked on Castaway, he's worked on Stuart Little, Godzilla. The guy wrote the software to design how the airplanes would fly in the end battle of Independence Day. I mean, I guess the guy was 12 when he did it, because he's still pretty young and pretty smart guy, and it was great to have him on board. And so we ended up with over 270 visual effects on this film. That's 100 more than the blockbuster Pearl Harbor. And so I think when people see this film, it's not the Omega Code, it's something far bigger. And I think people, whether they're into visual effects, whether they're into end times prophecy, whether they're just into really good movie making, I think they're going to be really excited. So why don't you come with me for this fascinating behind the scenes look at the below mind visual effects for the new apocalyptic thriller, Megiddo.
My name is Rob Brado. I'm the visual effects supervisor on the show, so I'm responsible for all the post-production special effects, visual effects that we do digitally and miniatures and that sort of thing. We're standing up here on the hillside that overlooks our plains of Megiddo for this film, and we see this in the movie a couple of different ways. We see it empty first to establish that this is where Stone's going to call his troops, and then later we see it filled with armies and men and tents and all the armies of the world. So for each of those shots, we carefully measure this ground and the slopes of the ground, and we use various techniques to measure the lighting and that kind of thing, and put our digital models that we've created in the computer in there to fill all this area out. It takes a fair amount of time to put all of this together. We've been prepping, right now we're in week 3 of production. We've been prepping for several months before we even started filming the show. We will be working on the show for at least 6 more months in digital, in post-production, to build every little rivet of every little tank, and then duplicate those tanks and troops and all the men and everything that need to exist in the little digital world. And then there's other various effect shots to kind of show the end of the world and what is happening in the end of the world throughout the movie. So those are kind of the other miscellaneous kind of things where we're blowing up buildings and blowing up other miniature models and things like that to show what happens when the bowls of wrath are unleashed on the people of the earth.
Fire!
This is our little chrome ball, and we shoot this with the video cameras and with the film cameras. Just one of the tools we use to measure the lighting and the environment. If you look in this, I'm sure you can see me reflected in it somewhere. You can see the cameraman reflected in it. You can see everything in a 360-degree view. It actually almost lets you see behind it. If you look right here, you're seeing right up there. So you're seeing all 360 degrees. So we use this to measure the lighting of a scene, the exact position of the sun, the colors of all the lights, if there's gels in front of the lights, all that kind of stuff, so that, again, we can recreate it in the computer to make all of our computer objects match exactly. We'll have more than 100 people probably working on this in post-production. So there'll be lots of man-hours put into making this project work.
And cut.
It's beautiful.
Okay, you got it.
Cut.
That's it.
No.
Let's get the incline, please.
Okay,
Don't move the camera.
Michael can get up though.
Go have a look. See
Jeff, just set the white orb next to the silver orb. We'll get this right away. Let's go ahead and stand on the top of there and hold up the orb.
He actually is in control of the whole movie. His name's Rob Brado. In essence, he controls everything that everybody else does because he's the visual effects supervisor. Nobody does anything without checking with Rob.
That one was really good timing.
And it hasn't gone to his head yet, which is good for us because he could actually just say no to any idea anybody has, and we all say, okay. Rob said no. It's really weird.
Camera's rolling. Got them both. That's all we need.
See, he just said that's all we need, so that's all we need. We're done.
You said that's all we need. Does that mean we're done? We're wrapped? Yeah, we're wrapped for the night. Okay, thank you. That's about 12 hours sooner than we planned. So we've been out on these stages now for 7 days, and it's a 10-day shoot in total. So we're nearing the end. You're seeing here take 2 of the Sphinx, and it's kind of the culmination of lots of months' work.
Roll quiet. Roll video. Roll camera. Ready and action.
It had 3 cameras, they're all running high speeds. So basically what you saw on the video, or what you see when you look at it with your eyes, is going to be slowed down when you see it in the theater, which gives it a bigger feel. We fixed a couple of things from the last take. We increased the speed of the sled that was pulling underneath the foot, and when we increased that, it made the debris that fell down as the foot cracked apart go faster and look better. The head cracked apart in a little bit of a different way, so we'll have our choice between basically the chin separating from the head and the head toppling over, or what we just had which was the chin and the head kind of sliding off together, and then the back of the headdress coming off separately. The head itself, which is made out of those big chunks that you saw breaking down, weighs over 500 pounds. It's 600 or 700 pounds just in the head. It's made of this heavy foam that we're able to carve, and then it's covered with this plaster that breaks apart and shatters. So it looks interesting and looks to scale when it actually comes apart.
Ready and action.
It started with a team of 5 storyboard artists back at the very pre-planning stages of the movie, before we were actually in production, drawing frames out, trying out things on paper to see what we wanted, because that's obviously the cheapest place to change things, is when you're just drawing them out on paper.
A lot of people think it's really big. It's actually not too big. The real one is 66 feet high and about 250 feet long. This model is 1/5 scale. We've built half of it. It stands 13.5 feet tall from the ground surface to the top of the head, and it's about 28 feet long. It's constructed out of steel and foam and plaster. The head is designed to break apart in 4 or 5 different pieces. The foot here is several hundred pieces that fall into a crevasse, and the chest is about 200 pieces that fall inward towards the body.
I'm standing in front of our Coliseum here, and this is our 1/10 scale miniature. We are doing the final lighting touches. You can see the final paint touches. We're just getting all these tables all painted up so that they will reflect nicely the light that we're doing, the lighting effects that we're doing on the Coliseum. Tonight we're doing a few different passes. We're going to do a lighting pass, which is an array of lights behind the Coliseum that will be dropping down on a crane, and they're going to be simulating the light effect that would happen if a comet were to hit right in the center of the Coliseum. We light up the thing, kind of like what you see now, with all of these lights that match how the real Coliseum is lit if you were to go and visit it in Italy, in Rome. Once we get the smoke filling the room, we come over to these xenons. And these are very powerful lights. I think these are something like 7,000 watts apiece, each of these lights. And we have 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, all focused on a very particular point right here in the center. And I'm told that when we turn these on, if you were to stand here, it wouldn't take very long to get a 3rd-degree burn all the way around your body. That gives us a nice even throw that pours out the light through these arches and gives us this light that's coming from this very bright comet pouring out through the Coliseum. And get all the cameras rolling. They'll all be rolling at high speed. And we've got 3 different cameras in 3 spots out in front of the Coliseum. So get all those guys up to speed, let it roll for a few seconds, and then we'll hit a button in the back, and out of these canisters that we have arrayed in the center of the background there, shoots Fuller's Earth, which will make a big light dust cloud, which will simulate the initial impact of this comet. Then we will click the switch and these walls will crumble apart, and the idea is they crumble from the center to the outside, and underneath these walls that you're looking at right here are tilt tables that are hydraulically rigged. Yeah, so those are hydraulics right there, and there's the pusher rod that goes up, and it's connected to 4 different places there. Those are the little wires basically that grab the tables and pull them down to throw the weight off on the surface. So basically it'll cause the whole wall to become unstable and buckle. And then the next big action that happens is we've got these pusher rods, which are basically like spring-loaded javelins right behind the wall, and it's designed to push the center of the wall out. And then the last component of the kind of destruction process, all the physical rigging that we've done on this, is we've tied off with cables the very top bricks, so that when we push it, instead of just having the whole wall push out like this, we have the wall pushing in the center like a ring out, and the top bricks are kind of tied back so they don't go too far, and then they'll spin down, and all of it will crumble into one big pile at the bottom.
Roll cameras. Ready and action. Dust.
All right. Great. That was fantastic. Oh man, that was looked really good.
But you could do better than that.
Also in the sequence for the major establishment shot where the comet first hits, that was shot basically what's called locked off, which means the camera was not moving, and we decided that we wanted to put a dynamic camera move in, follow the comet down, have it hit, and really be an impact and forceful shot. So what I needed to do was build an extra sky so that I had a place to travel down, so I could build a camera move in 2D that wasn't actually shot, and so I add that on top of all of that and really get it, looking like it was shot that way, as opposed to me doing it in 2D.
Wake up! Wake up! Good morning.
Basically, what they wanted was a scary demon-type shadow creature that lived in the shadows, that wasn't really solid, that was very scary. So this is some of the artwork that the artists came up with. We wanted it to feel like tortured, so this might be a hand that's grabbing the skull, and this spinal column might be grabbing the head, and we did different things in here to make him feel like not only is he mean, but he's mean for a reason.
You will give me what I want, and in return, I will give you your soul, your immortal soul.
These images actually are the specific ones that we did scan in, and we would build it in several views, basically almost exactly like this in the computer. He's actually built with a smoothing process, so the cage that I actually built for this, I didn't have to put down every single one of these points. I did approximation of these points, and the computer interpolates and smooths through the curves. This is basically the final model for the skull. We had a pretty clear idea that it was supposed to be charcoaled or burned bone, so we took natural reference again, something similar to this skull, and then the idea was that on the back side of it, where the skull is more in the fire on the creature itself, we would have burned or singed marks kind of creeping its way forward through the skull. For moving, the thing that came the closest was a lemur, and actually I discovered that from watching a kids show. So our artist went and did some lemur-type proportions to our skeletal creature, which worked real nice for having him hang off of things and to have him crawl along the ground. Then I just put the character himself in the scene and animate it as per instructions. And this is a rough version, or it's a wireframe version of the animation to get an idea of timing. Once the animation is approved, we move on to rendering and lighting. And we look again at the back plate, which is shot on film, to get the approximate lighting of the room, and then put our creature in there with the textures, add lights in 3D. The character is made up of multiple layers. I have to render the head separately, the fire for the arms separately, the fire for the body separately, so that when we composite it together, we have control over each of the layers to help blend it into the scene.
I will give you your soul, your immortal soul.
Right now we're working on a really cool movie. It's called Megiddo, and we're doing a handful of aerial battle shots. We're doing stuff with explosions and missiles firing. Airplanes are all over the sky, flying around. Planes are falling out of the sky and blowing up, and smoke trails and bullets firing, and it's just kind of high energy. So in this particular shot, the stuff that's real is the hill and the people and the tanks. The camera moves added on top of the plate, and then this sky here is artificially created and kind of using some photograph and some paint, and then all the other aircraft and the smoke is all digitally created. This helicopter is a Huey, and this, conveniently, we have one located at an airport across the street, so gathering reference was easy for us. And then this is a example render of it with the nearly finished texturing, and then there's some soldiers put in there too. So in the footage itself is just the tanks and the ground and the sky. So all these helicopters aren't in there initially. And then we take our models, like the helicopters, and then animate them in the trajectory of the flight, and of course spin the rotors. This movie has been pretty well organized in that they know what they want initially. They've given us good direction, and then we've just executed the work for them. So far what we have is, we have like a proxy model of his head and his mouth. That way we get the inner walls and the exterior walls of his mouth, and then we match animated his mouth opening up. And that gives us a reference, like a shape inside the 3D program, that these little hornets are kind of in a ball, and when they come out to the front, then they come out of their ball, open up, and then buzz off towards the camera. We're going to have some other bugs kind of just crawling out of the outer edges of his face, and because there's a whole bunch of them, you know, they're all confused, they don't know what they're doing. So majority of them shoots out, but the little ones that are going around his face are going to look pretty cool too.
Rolling. Okay, on the forehead.
Still, right on the forehead.
Okay, now he goes and retreat back. There we go. And he goes and dies. So snuff it. That's good.
What we're looking at here right now is a shot I'm currently working on in the early stages of the devil. First, before we can start animating, we obviously have to have a computer model built based off of the design. And the next thing we do is, of course, we have to have a sound clip, which Michael York has provided.
To do my handiwork.
So, starting with the model and that piece of dialogue, I've had to figure out what exactly the devil will be doing in the shot. I know that he's beginning to rise above David as part of the limitations, and I'm starting to figure out his acting. So I figure he's got a strong accent on handiwork, and I'm starting to give him a little bit of a gesture on his hand. And I would basically go and reposition him to get him to have the attitude that I want. And then I will periodically go and render out a quick little test to see how it's looking.
My handiwork. I have walked through history under many names, and for this time, even yours.
The whole process kind of goes, we get some concept drawings, and if we're lucky, we actually get some pieces. And the modelers will go over, they'll sculpt all of this stuff in the computer. Next thing that happens is we have to do what's called pelting, which is where we basically take the model, kind of slit it and stretch it out, kind of like you'd pelt an animal, that type thing. We'll test out some ideas, say on a piece like the arm. And we'll test things like, for instance, there's veins pulsing here, there's fluid flowing through the veins. All of that stuff's sort of laid in procedurally. We want to be able to look through the skin and see stuff moving with perspective. And then the people who are the lighters, they come in after the shaders and the texture people, and they start lighting the scene to make the lights look like they're coming from the same place that it is in the live action footage. So as the lighters are placing lights in the scene, the character starts moving around, the eye will automatically react. It works kind of like this. So you can see the specular reflection coming in off the light, and the iris is automatically reacting. It'll close down, open back up. It gives us a lot of flexibility, and that's kind of unusual in most shows. We don't usually have as much procedural stuff going on, but this show's pretty hefty in it.
Rise up and destroy all who stand against you. Arise! It is I, your Lord, who commands you!
I definitely wanted to take this opportunity to thank the hundreds of people who really helped put all the visual effects together for this film. And to each of you, thank you a lot, and it was a pleasure to work with you. And to you who are viewing the movie, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope the visual effects help to enhance that experience for you. So it's been a great show to work on. Thanks a lot.
He's like, oops. He broke it. Let's see how much he keeps on playing now. I got that on tape.
Did you see him? Do we dare use the W word? I think that's would you like to do that?
Okay, team, that's a wrap. That's the whole shoot. Thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure, everybody.
Good job, guys.